It's Kalia Monique. My first name's Kalia. My middle name's Monique. It's Kalia Monique. Today I have the second installment, the second episode of my Date with the Author series, and it's about to be a great one, y'all. It's about to be a blast. So I'm first going to explain what Date with the Author is, and then I will get into the rules for this video, and then I will be introducing which author I will be dating for this episode, okay? Date with the Author is a video series I have started here on my channel in which I sample a series of books from a popular romance author. Although romance is one of my top 3 genres that I like to read, in fact, it is solely responsible for a lot of the reading that I did in middle school and high school, I still tend to shy away from the popular romance authors. Call it nerves, call it... yeah, basically that's it. That is literally it. The popular romance authors just have so much hype surrounding them that I'm just like, I don't want any part of that. But with this series, I wanted to read the popular romance authors and finally understand what the whole rave is about. Do I like their books? Do I like their writing style? Do I like the characters that they create? And so, now let's get into the rules for this video. Listen, I done kept it real simple for myself because if there's too many rules, I'm bound to break one. So the format of this video is very simple. I will go on 3 dates with the author. The first date will always be the most recommended book of that author to me. So this could be something that is very popular on BookTube, Bookstagram, or any other social media platform, and is always being recommended, so you might have been recommended it a lot too, and I chose the book because of that. Or it is a book that has been personally recommended to me by one of you or a friend or a family member. For example, for episode 1, it was The Roommate Risk because my friend here on BookTube, Jenny, really loved that book and had not only bought me the book but recommended it to me, and so I read that as my first book for episode 1. Now, after episode 1, I will decide whether or not the author has passed enough for me to go into a second date. Spoiler alert, every author is going to get a second date. Just like humans, I tend, no matter how wrong you done did me, I tend to try to give authors a second chance. And the second date will be any random book from the author that I think will help me to get a good sense of this author's writing style. It could be their backlog. It could be another popular book by the author. Just a book. Just a book by the same author. From both date 1 and date 2, I will decide whether or not the author gets a third date. Now, the third date is going to be the most important date. That is when I will undoubtedly be reading one of the author's most recent releases. For example, for episode 1, I read the Brown Sisters trilogy because Eve Brown had been released earlier this year. And I choose new releases for date 3 because that is the author's most recent work, the most recent depiction of their craft and how they have evolved in their writing style. While there will always be 3 dates, there will not necessarily be only 3 books that I read throughout the video. I could decide to read a trilogy or a duology that the author has written. I can decide to read a series for one of the dates. It really just depends on the author, their catalog, and how much I feel like, how much I want to do. Now, after date 3, I will take my cumulative feelings, emotions, and overall rating of date 3, 2, and 1 to decide whether or not the author has reached base status. And base status basically means that I really trust this romance author, and if they have another release that's coming up, I absolutely will be looking out for it. If I am in the bookstore and see that they've written another book, I will more than likely pick it up. Basically, I trust this author in their writing style, their character development, and in the way they develop a true romance. So yeah, base status is where every author wants to go. Also, it's pass or fail. It is very much a pass or fail. There is no like spectrum for this. It is pass or fail. You are bae or you are not. That is it. With no further ado, drum roll please. Although I didn't feel like entering in the drum roll in the last video, and I probably won't feel like entering it in for this video. Nonetheless, Symbolic drumroll, please. The author I will be dating for this video is Helen Hoang. I am so excited to read Helen Hoang's work. You probably you can guess what the dates are going to be, because I believe that she only has the 3 books published, and so yeah, we will be following that series. But that being said, let's go ahead and get into date number 1 with The Kiss Quotient. By far the most popular book of hers that I have been recommended. This is her debut, I believe, and yeah, from the little things that I do know about this author, this is actually almost everyone's favorite book of theirs. So I'm very excited to get into this one. Hey y'all, I've officially completed date number 1 with Helen Hoang, and it was a great one. I had a had a great time over here. Date number 1 was with Kiss Quotient, where I got to meet Miss Stella and Mr. Michael, and it was a great time over here. It was a great insta-lovey time in the streets, okay? Stella is 30 years old, and dating is not really her thing, which is unfortunate because her mom wants grandchildren so badly. And all Stella really wants to do is make her parents happy. Unfortunately, when it comes to making babies, you gotta make another thing first. You gotta do a certain deed before you can make the baby. Like, I'm not explaining the birds and the bees to you. That's not my job. That's not why I'm here. But Miss Stella don't like sex. She doesn't have fun. She doesn't like the intimacy, the vulnerability of it all. She wants out. She said no. She's had 3 experiences and she hated them all. But Stella struggles strongly with many social situations, not just the deed, but many different social situations, strongly due to her high functioning autism, also known as Asperger's. Stella is, if not anything, is great at masking. She's like, okay, I need to learn how to be better at this so that I can give my mama the babies that she wants so dearly. Forget the fact that Stella would be the mother of these children, but Stella just wants to give her mom grandchildren. And so Stella decides to do the only logical thing, and that is to practice sex. And of course, who do you practice things with? Experts. And who would be an expert of sex? An escort. Okay? Yes. Sis done bought her a man. And for research purposes, I don't see the problem with this. Now, Stella is fortunate enough. We are all fortunate enough in the fact that the man of the hour, the expert that she has hired, is Mr. Michael Fine. Mr. Michael Fine, rather, you know? So Stella ends up hiring Michael to be her escort, to be her teacher, her sensei. Oh my god, but... Which is so cute because, you know, he be fighting and she likes her martial arts move. Yeah, that was a cute thing I just said by accident, and I don't even know it's gonna make it into editing, but I said it and I'm kind of proud. And honestly, Michael is quite hesitant because he's like, okay, you're telling me that this beautiful 30-year-old woman is having troubles with sex and she's about to pay me to have it with her over and over and over again? What could go wrong? This sounds amazing. And so they go on this journey together. They go through these lessons together, in order to help Stella to be better in the bedroom. It was a wild time in these sheets. Where is my book of the month bookmark? The one that... Listen... I only have words. Okay, let's get this through. This book right here, I completely understand why this is so many people's favorite one of Helen Hoang's books. Like, I know I haven't read any more of them. I know this is my first one of her books, but this was such a great book. I had so much fun. I loved being in Stella's mind as she tried to navigate these different social situations. And I loved how entranced I was with Stella's mind. Like, very quickly, Stella's obsessions became my obsessions. And even though Stella being an econometrist, yes, okay, every single time I read that word in this book, it was a different word. But like I was saying, even with Stella being an econometrist and like her being obsessed with her work, and she would like have these moments where she was talking about the calculations and everything, and I was here for it. I was like, I think I understand. And I just had so much fun. I absolutely love Stella as a character. Like, genuinely, I love her. Like, so much. Oh, I want to be her friend so much. Because, yeah, Stella was so great and amazing. I thoroughly enjoyed reading the author's note in which Helen Hoang talked about how Stella and her experiences were very similar to the experiences Helen Hoang had as she was growing up. And once she discovered once she found out that she had Asperger's, it's putting some of her characteristics in the character of Stella and how natural Stella came to her. And like, you can tell while reading Stella as a character, like this character she was just so natural. I don't even know how to describe it. I just know that like throughout the entire time reading Stella's character, reading her obsessions, reading the things she liked and didn't like, how she commented on the world, like it felt so natural and so real. And so when I read the author's note and Helen Hoang had just written about how she essentially put her experiences into the character of Stella, I was like, yes, that makes perfect sense, because Stella felt so real. And I know like a lot of book characters will feel real or something, but she felt like real in a very personal, very like spiritual, emotional way. And so yeah, definitely thoroughly enjoyed Stella. And oh my god, I felt for Stella. This book gave me so many moments in the middle where like I was having physical reactions. My throat was clogging up when Stella would get like uncomfortable with something and like, or overstimulated. My throat would lock up because I was just like, oh my god, please somebody go save Stella. I was like, I would be laying in my bed reading and like tossing and turning because I was like, I want them to see Stella. I need them to adapt better to her because she is so busy adapting herself to fit into other people's perceptions of what is normal and trying to fit her, and masking, and just like every instance of Stella masking made me so uncomfortable. Only not uncomfortable, but it made me so angry with everyone else in the room for forcing Stella to have to be something else, to feel this uncomfortable for no reason at all. Like, it's not Stella's fault. Because I genuinely don't even know the problems. Like, the fact that Stella had to be so aware of so many people and not a single person was that conscious or cognizant of Stella and her needs pissed me the fuck off. I was so angry. Also, we're going to move from Stella to Michael because I feel like he was the closest instance of being someone that was working towards Stella's needs. Although I would say personally, he still wasn't doing everything I needed him to do, okay? Michael was still very much obsessed with himself and like his faults. He just felt very incompetent. He definitely struggled with an inferiority complex when it came to like comparing himself to Stella or other people. And you saw that in the way he interacted with Stella, because there would be times where she'd get upset and he wouldn't even notice it because he was too busy worrying about himself and worrying about if he was a bad guy or not. And like, I could understand that for him, but also I was just like, come on, you're this closer. Like, you get it. So you get it right so many times that this one instance in which you're getting it wrong is really annoying me. Like, sir, open your eyes. And this book for me was very much character driven, which I thoroughly enjoyed because I enjoyed the characters. Like, I'm so excited. That being said, I'm giving I ain't done nothing yet but set up the camera and light so that I could give this, but I am going to be giving The Kiss Quotient a 4.5 stars. The only reason I am knocking it down is because it was driving me insane that we didn't know what was going on with Michael until like this far into the book. Like, we were 60% of the way through the book, maybe 55% of the way through the book, and we didn't know Michael's backstory yet, and yet we kept being told that he had a backstory. Like, we kept being told that he had hang-ups about something in his past. We kept being told that he was insecure about certain things due to his relationship with his dad, but never knowing what the hell the dad did, never knowing exactly why he was insecure. We didn't even know his career. We didn't know what his passions were until so far in. Out of the characters, I definitely enjoyed Stella more than Michael, and that is because we knew so much about Stella from the get-go, and just the mystery surrounding Michael just lasted a tiny bit too long for me. And so yeah, it's a 4.5, which is a great rating. So with this book, exploring how imperfect parents are, really enjoyed that conversation. First of all, Michael's dad, fuck him. This whole journey Stella set herself upon started because her mother wanted her to have children. And yet, many times throughout this book, we would be reminded how imperfect Stella's parents were and how imperfect Michael's mom was. When it came to Michael and his mom's relationship, she often offloaded onto her son her like stresses with his father. There was an instance in which Michael had mentioned that, or even I think it was Michael's cousin Juan, but he mentioned that Michael's mom had told him things about Michael's dad that she's never told anybody, like just deep dark secrets that she had never spoken to anybody about. And I was like, and you chose your child, ma'am. And so when it came to like Michael and his insecurities, Michael and how much he was fighting not to be like his dad, and how just unsure he was, and just how insecure Michael was, I was like, yeah, sir, it's because your mom has been telling you grown folks business. Like, I know you're an adult, but you're still her child, and the man she's like complaining to you is still your father. You're already trying to like tackle your feelings with your father from your standpoint as his son and what he did, But then she's also putting that on you as like, he also did this to me as like my husband. It's like, especially when you find out what Michael's dad has done. Like, it's like the things that Michael might have been told about his father is just like, my goodness. Like, oh, I can definitely see why Michael would be so hung up on his father and his father's behavior and not trying to be his father, because like his mom really put him in a very odd situation, and having him be the one that she offloaded to. And she was also very close to her son, so I could see how that could happen. But again, like, it was just one of those instances there I was like, wow, parents are not perfect. Also, when it came to Stella, and her parents, her mom, her mom came this close to me liking her, and then just snatched it away. Just snatched every chance of me liking her away, because she was kind of like I don't know how you, like, what do you call stage moms when your child isn't on the stage? Like, do you know what I mean? I think Stella had said she was, like, badgering her. But sure. Overbearing, I guess. Yeah. Her mom was just so overbearing and just trying to make Stella normal. And it was like, please just like your child for who she is. Like, I understand that you want your Stella to be her own adult and you want her to have a life with a husband and children. But forcing her to be quote-unquote normal, forcing her to be in these social situations she does not want to be at, and not accommodating her. Like, there was no accommodation for Stella from her parents when it came to being high-functioning with her autism. Like, there was just none. Like, her mom was just like, literally, her mom would just be like, just go out and date. Just go out. And it's like, ma'am, do you know how difficult that is? Like, I feel like as a parent to a child who was on the spectrum, especially since Stella was diagnosed from an early age, you would think, like, as a parent, she would have tools and would cater to her daughter and her needs. And that's not what happened at all. Stella was catering to her mom's needs. Like I said, this all started because Stella wanted to give her mom grandchildren. Not because Stella wanted to become better at sex. I mean, she did, but only so that she can give her mom grandchildren. And I was just like, oh, do you not see how hard your daughter is working for you and how hard she is working to make you happy? And then her dad, the only reason I can't stand her dad is because of how he treated Michael. And that's that on that. That was just rude, okay? Yeah. And again, once Stella's mom finally did come to Stella's side, or come to Stella's aid, she couldn't even stick on her side for more than like 5 minutes before she was like, okay, move on. First of all, what? Who just tells their child to just move on after that? I was like, that fast? Like, man, my food hasn't even settled. How am I supposed to change my emotions? That, like, you want me to do a complete 180 of my emotions, and my food hasn't even settled yet. Granted, Stella hadn't yet eaten anything, but I'm just saying, like, it was so fast. She wanted Stella to get over a big thing quickly and, like, immediately. And I'm like, that's, even if Stella didn't have autism, that wouldn't have been normal. Like, that would not have been a normal reaction to what happened. To just completely be okay with things. Like, everyone needs to have their moment of sitting with their emotions. And Stella's mom wasn't even trying to give her that. And it was like, okay, ma'am, can you just stop and breathe for a second? Can Stella breathe? Can we all just breathe? But yeah, like I said, the only reason I couldn't stand Stella's dad, like, he was fine. I was fine with him. He was okay. And then he was mean to Michael. And now we gotta fight. Like, that's it. But yeah, like I said, 4.5. This was a great date. And now, after our amazing first date with Miss Helen Hoang, we of course are going into date number 2, which is going to be the bride test.
eyes tell me that you don't wanna leave just yet. No, my eyes agree. It's almost like when we first met. Oh, I don't care, it's getting too late. I want you and I can't wait. Don't wanna spend a minute without you. I know you feel the same. So come on, give me love. I'ma show you how to move with my body. Come hit me with your touch and make me wanna say, damn. And yeah, you know what's up. Ain't nothing I won't do for your body. So give me all you got right now. I know I'm yours, baby. So come give me love. You know you're mine, baby. So come give me love.
I have officially completed date number 2, the bride test, and listen, it's 2 for 2. Okay, I love this book. I love this book so much. Okay, I will admit, I do love the kiss quotient more. Therefore, the bride test is sitting at a good 4 stars. Where do I begin? First of all, once again, the way Helen Hoang has brought us into the character's mind. These characters feel so real. And I know many characters and many books feel real, but it's just genuinely like these people exist. How? And then you read the author's note and you completely understand how. Because Helen Hoang genuinely uses her life experiences and the people in her lives to create these characters. And it reminds me so much of an essay I read once in my creative writing class in undergrad. I can't remember which year it was. But in that class we had read an essay and one of the writers had discussed how in her story she can't ever explain whether or not her story is real or not. Even though she was a fiction writer, she could never really think of her works as fiction because every character she created drew on her own life experiences. And so there's like that discussion of nonfiction versus fiction and like the spectrum it's kind of on how much fiction draws on real life. And again, I just felt that so much while reading this book. And also the kiss quotient, it's just like I can see that these characters are so real and so you read the author's note and you're like, of course they're real, because Helen Hoang is drawing on people from her real life or drawing from her own life experiences, and just like, this is why they feel real, because they are real. They just have different names, and it's just, it's so great. So, not gonna lie, I was very hesitant to get to this one. The bride test follows Kai in his relationship with May, also known as Esme. Kai is autistic and his mother really wants him to be in a relationship. This is yet another mother that just wants grandchildren. So many of these problems would go away if someone could have a baby. The thing is, much like Stella, Kai does not like social situations. He has no interest in dating. In fact, Kai doesn't need anyone at all. Or at least that's what he thinks. Due to a loss or two in his life, Kai has taken up the notion that he doesn't need people. He is completely fine working, staying within his schedules, keeping on track with everything he does in a day, never needing anyone, never needing to depend on anyone or call on anyone to help him. Kai is independent. He needs nothing from no one. And honestly, it's best that he doesn't date because he has a stone heart and is incapable of love. And just how horrible would it be if he were to date someone knowing good and well he is incapable of love? That's just the type of heartlessness that Kai does not have within him. But do you know what Kai also doesn't have? A clue. Kai doesn't have a clue because he is the most caring, considerate, and loving person I have ever read about. But he's just confused. He's confused. He doesn't know that he is loving. He doesn't know how caring and giving he is because it's just so matter of fact to him. My brother needs something? Okay, I'll give my brother what he needs because he asked for it. My mom and my sisters need something? Oh, then I'll do that for them because they asked me to. It's just so matter of fact to him. If I can do that, if I can do it, if they need it, I'm gonna do it. Even if he doesn't want to. And I'm like, baby, How can you say your heart is made out of stone when you are melting mine? Clearly, your heart is warmth and in caring and just so beautiful. But of course, mother knows best. And so the book starts off with Kai's mother in Vietnam looking for a bride for Kai, and she stumbles across May and propositions May with the opportunity to come to America and marry her son. And so May, wanting to make a better life for her daughter, decides that she will give it a test. She will try to meet Kai and marry him. Now May moves to America for the summer and to live with Kai, and changes her name to Esmeralda while she is in the States. Now she is Esme, and all she wants to do is be the best Esme for Kai in order to be the best bride for Kai and provide a better life for her daughter. And that is where this story takes off. I will say I did find it hard to connect with this book for a minute. It took me a minute because the notion of just the proposition that Kai's mom was giving to Esme and the exploitation it kind of felt like at the beginning of exploiting Esme's situation. Like, Esme is poor, living in a shack with her young daughter, mother, and grandmother. And so, of course, if you're going to give her the opportunity to have a better life, she's going to choose that for her daughter. And, like, you can see that in every action that Esme had of, like, this is for my daughter, this is for my daughter. Until she warms up a bit more to Kai, and then it's like, well, how do I mash my worlds back together? And so I was kind of tense with the situation because, again, it just felt a bit exploitive of Esme's situation. But it did progress, and their relationship progressed in a way of, like, okay, I can actually picture these characters together. Like, they are what the other one needs. Both of them are so selfless that it's kind of like, duh, they would be together. Like, Esme came to America, is trying this whole thing out for a better life for her mom, grandmother, and of course her daughter. Like, it's not even for her to be better for herself. She was working this hard for her family back home. And then Kai, again, when anybody were to ask him to do something for them, if he could, he absolutely would, even if he didn't like it. And so I found myself once again being so frustrated with people for not accommodating to Kai in the ways that he was accommodating for other people. This book highlighted even more so than the kiss quotient that within Kai's extended family, there really isn't any understanding or any drive to understand what autism is and how it impacts an individual. And so Kai finds himself in these, like, tense and, like, socially awkward situations with his family because no one is willing to acknowledge that autism is a true thing. No one is trying to adjust the way they communicate in order to help Kai to understand the situation. Everyone's getting mad at Kai when he says something, even though to me, I was like, okay, first of all, that was a mistake. It was very clearly a mistake, and it wasn't that big of a deal. Like, I understand you're upset, ma'am, and you have the right to be upset, but also, why are you crying? Are you kidding me? Not only are you guys not communicating with Kai in the way that he needs, not only are you guys not acknowledging that he has different needs than you, but you're also blowing things out of proportion. Like, what? Excuse me? Like, again, it was just so unnecessary. And so I found myself just pissed off at people, so angry at people. And once again, in this book, having the examples of, like, parents are not perfect. Both Kai and Esme's mothers had me just like, okay, ma'am. It was very much like old school meets new school. And so, that was an experience. Also, I believe the next book follows Quan. And I need to know. I believe the next book follows Quan in a relationship with somebody. And so, I'm interested to be with this mother again. Because the way she was treating Juan, and the way she was like kind of talking about her sons made me so uncomfortable. And because it's like, okay, ma'am, I understand you want the best for your sons, but the way you are pushing both of them and the competition you have between your sons in your head and you vocalize is quite problematic. And so I'm very interested in seeing how that relationship transfers between Quan and his mother. Anyways, back to this book though. That's everything I had to say about Kai. But Esme's situation, I loved Esme as a character. She was such a strong character. Like, her determination to create a better life for her daughter, for herself, was just so great. And when it came to the point where she was like, I don't know if I can depend on this person, so I'm going to depend on my damn self, and I'm going to do what I need to do for a better life for my daughter. I'm going to find a way to stay here so that I can bring my daughter here and we can live a better life in America, because the life that we're living in Vietnam is not acceptable for what my daughter needs. And so just the way she was so driven, and how honestly I feel like Esme, not even knowing what autism was, still did far better at accommodating to Kai's needs than anyone else in his life, including his brother. Although I will say Quan didn't really do anything wrong. It's just like Esme did it so much better. Like, Esme did so well at accommodating to Kai's needs, better even so than Michael did Stella. Like, it just came so naturally to her to, like, I don't want to say natural, but once they started to open up the lines of communication of, like, Kai is different, you need to talk to him before you do some things, it clicked so quickly. This book does deal with the miscommunication trope strongly. Like, it is a strong aspect of this book. I didn't mind it. First of all, with miscommunication, they are speaking two different languages to each other. Like, in a conversation, Kai will speak to her in English because he is not comfortable speaking in Vietnamese. And then Esme is speaking to him in Vietnamese because she's not comfortable in English. And so clearly there's a language barrier there, even though they understand the languages. Like, even though Esme is able and confident in listening to English, and even though Kai is even though Kai is able to listen to Vietnamese, like, neither of them were ever speaking in the same language. So there's definitely miscommunication in that way. But again, for like half the book, Esme didn't even know that Kai had autism, and so she was like trying to be this better person for him, like trying to be this great, perfect wife for him. And it's all the things that are like triggering Kai. And she doesn't find out that he has autism until like halfway through. So it's like a whole half of the book of her being like, I'm gonna do this thing to be perfect for him, and him being like, I freaking hate this. Like, this is hell. And then when he does tell her that he has autism, she doesn't even know what that is. She's like, okay, so it's a touch thing. I just need to be careful about how I touch him, instead of like, it's far more than touch. And then is that cleared up quickly? Nope. And legit, no one actually tells Esme what autism is until we're 80% of the way through the book. And so I was like, this is why miscommunication is such a huge thing. Because, she doesn't know what... There's no way that she can understand what Kai needs, because autism isn't a thing where she's at. Like, they don't have... There's not an understanding or an acknowledgement of autism in Vietnam. That, like, also annoyed me. The fact that Michael's mom didn't even tell Esme. She was just like, my son is different. And so every time the mom would be like, my son is different, Kai is different, I'm like, he's different for a reason. Like, you need to express to this woman that you're going to need to communicate with my son differently. The way he interacts with things are different than what you might perceive as normal. And there was just none of that happening, to the point where, like, that was the strongest reason for their miscommunication, was simply Esme not knowing at all that Kai had autism or what autism was. So that was very frustrating, and I wish we could have just had that dealt with. I like if only she had that conversation with Quan earlier in the book. Like, if we were gonna learn it, because she learned that he had autism 50% of the way through the book. Let that be the time she's having the conversation with Quan and he's explaining what autism is. And she was doing all this studying for all these different classes in order to be a better person for Kai. She couldn't have done some research about what autism was. And this isn't me blaming her. This is me blaming everyone else in the situation that knows that Kai has autism, that knows what it means and how to interact with him, and never once told her. Like, what the hell? So yeah. This, much like Kiss Kosha, was very much driven by the characters, and I love the characters in this book. 4 stars. But clearly, I had an amazing first date. The second date was amazing as well. We are definitely moving into date 3, the heart principle. So let's go ahead and get ready for date number 3.
Still miss you. Why can't I move on? Thought I left you smiling. My past is holding on. They said keep on praying, things will change. So I kept on waiting. It's the same. When will tomorrow come? When will I see the sun? Will it stop hurting so much? When will tomorrow come? They said keep on praying, things will change. So I kept on waiting. It's the same. They say keep on praying, things will change. So I kept on waiting.
Hey y'all. This is literally front facing camera, just like a very, very quick update of date 3. I just finished the heart principle, and I feel as though I have read someone's diary. I feel as though I was a fly on the wall for someone's therapy session. I feel as though Helen Hoang has really opened up her heart with this book. And it is very late, so I'm going to go to sleep. But yeah, I did want to give like that very quick piece right after reading the book, because I also just read the author's note, and this book is really special. I have no clue at all how I'm going to rate it yet, because like I don't know how to rate this book. But I did just want to say that there was something truly beautiful done with this book. It was just so raw and true and just, oh my goodness. I'll have more comprehensive, that's not the word, I highly doubt that there'll be comprehensive thoughts, but I'll actually sum up my thoughts tomorrow as I wrap up this video. But this, Helen Hoang did something with this one. Alright, so I'm gonna have to get through these clips very quickly because my nails are too long for me to be able to put the backs on the on my earrings, and we just had one fall out. So let's try to do this quickly. First of all, yes, I do realize that I am wearing the same clothes as the intro. That is because, spoiler alert, I just filmed it now. I was not feeling good at the beginning of filming this video, and I genuinely could not talk to give the intro because I had just like a really, really bad migraine. But I'm feeling better now. That being said, I have completed Date 3, The Heart Principle. And yeah, I'm going to give a very quick synopsis so that I can talk about my thoughts, because I don't know how to talk about this book without spoiling it, and I really want to. There's a lot. The Heart Principle follows Anna and Quan. And Anna is a professional violinist who accidentally becomes internet famous due to one of her performances going viral. A lot of pressure is then put on Anna's shoulder. Everyone is trying to see what she does next. In fact, a very famous conductor has created a score specifically for her, and no one else can perform it except for her. And so she is now trying to perfect this piece, and she is hitting a wall. She cannot get this piece going. Every time she messes up, she starts over and over, and she ends up in this very vicious cycle to where she just is not finding joy in her music anymore. She's not figuring out how she can move forward from this piece. She cannot figure out how to move forward with being a musician. She is just stuck. Now enter in her horrible boyfriend, who decides that they need to take a break because
I want to marry you one day, but how do I know that you're the one if I don't fuck the whole state of California first?
I hate men. And so Anna decides to try online dating. And who does she match with other than Quan, who is the cousin to Michael from The Kiss Quotient and the brother of Kai from The Bride Test. Quan has got his own book, y'all. We've been waiting. Okay, now Quan is dealing with insecurities of his own after he goes through certain circumstances in life that has left his body not like it used to be, and he has just gone through a life-altering experience. And so after 2 years of not dating at all, he decides also that he is going to online date. He's about to hop back on that horse. He is ready. They both match, and believe it or not, they bond over octopi or octopuses, depending on which one you ask, because Quan called them octopuses, Anna called them octopi. Both are technically correct, though Anna is right. It's octopi. I don't understand who would want to say octopuses. That had nothing to do with the synopsis at all. Going back, and they both decide to go on a date in order to have a one-night stand. They both just want the big bang, you know? Except they don't have the big bang. In fact, they go on a number of dates in which there is no big banging anywhere. I'm gonna stop saying that now. As they are going on these dates that are not really dates, in order to have their one-night stand that is only going to be for one night, you guessed it, they start to develop feelings for one another and start to think, maybe one night is not enough. Maybe I want you for all the nights for the rest of my life. I've had so many different thoughts while reading this book, okay? Yeah, in every different experience, I felt something different. I was going to come on here originally I was going to come on here and have a little joke of like, if this is the third date, Helen Hoang has just friend zoned me, because this is not a romance. This is a contemporary. The romance is secondary to the actual story in this book. And I personally did not mind that. I love contemporary books, but but I do know that some people were upset with this book because it's not a romance. And you're right. You're right. It's not a romance. That doesn't upset me because the story itself is quite beautiful. This book is split up into 3 parts, which is the before, the during, and the after. The during broke my fucking heart. Okay. Let's explain. So there is a large event that happens in Stella's family. So Stella ends up having a family emergency. She ends up in a family crisis. She ends up having to make certain sacrifices to be there for her family. And Anna has just been diagnosed with high functioning autism as an adult, and she doesn't really know what to do with this diagnosis. She's researching what autism is. She's researching what high functioning means. And she's trying to figure out how this fits in within her life. And after years of very intense masking, Anna is really starting to actually understand that she does belong somewhere, and it is within the spectrum, and she's starting to finally be seen in the research she's doing surrounding autism. That being said, her family does not believe in therapy, and there is a lot of gaslighting in this book. Like, a lot. By her sister particularly, and honestly solely by her older sister, which drove me insane. I felt like, okay, so y'all remember in the Kiss Quotient, I said that I was upset with people not being understanding to Stella in her autism, and that was a frustration. And then in the Bride Test, I was equally frustrated with people for not understanding Kai and his need for communication in a different way when it comes to his autism. It became 3 times more intense in the Heart Principle. Like, not only was that a theme in the Heart Principle as well, but it also was just so much more emotionally heart-wrenching to read. Just, my God. The during portion of the book, which is the majority of the book, just broke my heart in so many different ways. I was uncomfortable at times because I was just feeling so much. I was overwhelmed by my emotions while reading this book, and that was in no way, shape, or form what I was anticipating. And so, yeah, I definitely, after reading this book, felt emotionally drained. Also, something different within this book than the other 2 is that the other 2 were in 3rd person. This one is written in 1st person, and that is something I picked up immediately, clearly. But I was like, oh, like, I wonder why Helen Hoang had decided this. And then you're reading the book, and it is just so overwhelming in the emotion that I honestly felt like I was reading someone's diary. I felt as though I was eavesdropping on someone's therapy session, or it just felt so blatantly personal and emotional. It felt like Helen Hoang had opened up her heart to the reader in the most raw and visceral way. Like, this book was just so vulnerable and raw and just emotionally tense that I just, like I said, I was just overwhelmed as I was reading. I had so many frustrations when it came to Anna's family and how, because Anna's masking was very intense. Like, she wanted to please people so much, and not a single person cared about how Anna felt. And I just, it broke my heart. And as Quan was going through his thing, I will say I very much missed Quan's mom. I would be very interested to see how she now treated her son after what he has gone through, because I had mentioned in the Bride Test that I'm very interested in seeing how the mom interacts with Quan. She wasn't in this book at all, and I feel like that really was a missed opportunity, because in the Bride Test she's like, Quan's okay, but Kai is the great one. And so I really wanted to see that relationship developed more, and seeing like how Quan feels being her how Quan feels being his mother's secondary child, kind of, even though he's the oldest and has been so protective towards his younger siblings. And that is something that is highlighted in this book, of just how protective Quan is of the people he loves. I wanted to see his mom's interaction with her son after the acknowledgement of, I give so much to you people. I give so much love to my younger siblings. I give so much love to you, mother, and still I'm secondary in your eyes. Not to mention having that evolve even more so after Quan has gone through what he's gone through. Like, has his mother's thoughts on her son changed a bit? Is she more loving and more affectionate towards him? Like, there was a lot that I had questions towards, especially since the mom was a secondary character in the bride test. I don't understand why she couldn't have been for the heart principle, again, because parents were a big part of the kids quotient, parents were a big part of the bride test. It was only Anna's parents that were a big part of this book, and so it definitely was not equal in the depiction of Quan and Anna, especially not in the way that it was for the first two books. So this book was also different in that way. This book was just very different than the other two books. I really enjoyed reading these three books together. I feel like that was a really great experience for me personally as the reader, especially reading the author's notes and the intentionality between each of the books. So, for example, the Kids Quotient was written at the very beginning of the process of Helen Hoang realizing that she was on the spectrum of autism, right? And so she's exploring that in the character Stella in this book. And then the bride test, she's exploring more so her mother. She's exploring more of a character similar to her own mother. She's had her diagnosis for a while. She's just exploring autism through another perspective, which is the male perspective. You could tell she's a bit further in her diagnosis. You get to the heart principle. Helen Quan she's been diagnosed with autism for a while. This feels a lot more mature. This feels like an overall reflection of all that she has had to go through, being high functioning on the spectrum, and also her interactions with other people. She also used this to explore her grief and experience while taking care of her mother while her mom was sick from lung cancer. And so there was that aspect added to this book, and it was so much more mature than the first two books. And again, reading all three of these books together, reading the author's notes at the end of each of these books, hold on, let me pick it up. This series for Helen Hoang was very therapeutic. Like, it was a reflection. It was an experience in trying to understand her own experiences in life and how her autism impacted those experiences, or how just simply her experiences in life impacted her personally, which is why I think I felt that, like, very therapeutic and raw feeling towards the heart principle. Like I said, it was just a lot more mature. A lot more reflection was done in this book. A lot more personal reflection on the author's part was done while she was writing this book. And I can tell as the reader, as I'm reading it, that this is a lot more intense. There's a lot more themes being developed and explored in this book. Because the heart principle is so different from the other two, it kind of feels like it doesn't belong. But when you read the author's note, or at least when I was reading the author's note, it honestly just felt like this is Helen Hoang trying to write out and therapeutically reflect on her experiences in life. And so this series was so personal to the author that this book, being as personal as it is and developing so many different themes, also fit in that way. Like, it does fit in the series, in my opinion, because this whole series was the author trying to reflect on her experiences being on the spectrum. This is the author trying to understand her life experiences and how she has taken them in. And so, with that being said, like, I don't even know if I could rate this book, because often with ratings, I think about, what did you promise me, and did you come through with that promise? And I guess technically I was promised a book about Quan. I was promised a closure to the series. I was promised romance, and Juan was secondary in this book. This did not feel like a closure at all to the series. I definitely can, I mean, it could be, and that would be fine, but I could see if Helen Hoang wanted to add more books to the series, it definitely is open to that. I just don't know how, because the connection to all 3 books has been these cousins, and there's not another cousin. So, but it still felt open, like if she wanted to dive more. And that could be very much because she's still living life. She still has more to experience in life and to reflect on. And so maybe she'll do that in another series. Maybe she'll do it in another book that isn't connected to these 3. But yeah, it just didn't feel like a closure to me. What else did it? Oh, and like I said, it's not a romance book. This is contemporary. That being said, the book is so beautiful. The writing was so beautiful. The characters were so well developed that I'm like, it's a 5-star. In what I was promised, I will say that The Kiss Quotient was probably my favorite book. But when it comes to impact, The Heart Principle actually is my favorite. So take with that what you will. Yeah, I would say definitely if you're going to pick up this book, if you're going to pick up any of these books, if you've already read the first 2 books and you're thinking about picking up this one, just don't expect a romance. Go into it thinking of it as contemporary. Family relationships were developed more in this book. A woman being diagnosed with autism is being explored in this book. And what happens when you are diagnosed later in life. And so, yeah, there are a lot of themes being developed here to where the romance is secondary or even tertiary, if we're being honest. And it ended up working out and being okay for me personally, but, to each their own. Like I said, I don't really know how to rate this book. It feels like a 5-star in my heart because, yeah, I'm thinking about it and I can't not think about it. This one's special to me. Has Helen Hoang made it to Bay status? Yes, absolutely yes. I am very interested in reading more works by this author. I love their writing style. If Helen Hoang continues to use her books to explore her own life experiences in the raw way she has for this series, I absolutely want more. Oh my god, and again, just experiencing the evolution in her writing through these 3 books is just so whoa, because again, this was just like, you can tell that this is like her debut and she's still like learning with her writing, she's still learning with the characters, but still that emotional impact was still so strong in this. Like I said for Date 1, when Stella was obsessed with something, I was obsessed with it. And I was very intrigued by the math in this. And I hate math, but I still was but I was as obsessive with it as Stella was. And just so much. Again, out of the 3 books, I would say The Bride Test was my least favorite and the least memorable to me. But even still so, Kai and Esme had my heart. And I was still very much enthralled with those characters. So if anything can be said, Helen Hoang absolutely knows how to. Helen Hoang's character depiction and character development is just so well done. Like I'm so invested in these characters. So yeah, absolutely big status. If you enjoyed this video, if you enjoyed my face, my voice, my extraness, go ahead and press that like button down below and press the subscribe button and the bell notification if you would like to be notified when I upload. Did you enjoy this video? What authors would you like me to continue to date as we go on with this series? Go ahead and leave that down below in the comments. If you would like to stay connected with me as I would like to stay connected with you, I will have my socials linked down below as well. And if you would like to support this channel further, I will have my Amazon wishlist and my coffee linked down below as well. I believe that is everything, although I am probably forgetting something because I always forget something. But bye, guys. Okay, wait, I absolutely did forget something this time, and that is that there are actually going to be 2 companion series to my Date with the Author series, and that is Fantastical Journeys with the Author and Fright with the Author. Fantastical Journeys with the Author will follow popular fantasy authors, and Fright with the Authors will feature popular horror authors. I will say out of all three series, I'm definitely the most scared of horror because I don't read horror. But I thought that would be even cooler to have a series from a genre that I don't actually read. The next video you see that will be a part of the With the Author companion series will be Fantastical Journeys with the Author, because I already have not one but two different authors picked out for that series, and so I already have 2 episode plans for that series. That being said, I have not a clue who I want to start off with for Fright with the Author, so go ahead and leave your suggestions linked down below. And if you have made it this far, because I definitely had a whole outro before this, but if you have made it this far, please leave a, what emoji will I do? Let's see, we have Fantastical Journeys and we have Fright. Leave the little star emoji. The sparkly stars, not the sparkly stars. I'm not even going to suggest which one of the stars I don't want you to do. Leave the sparkly star emoji link in your comment down below and give me some horror genre authors that you would like for me to read. Alright guys, that is officially the end of this video. Thank you so much for lasting this long. I will see you guys in the next one.